on the this is the fourth time the Metcalf family has been swatted. The third time, this is Jeff Metcalf, the dad, who specifically has been swatted. Yeah, the mom and dad don't have the same household, is what I'm assuming here. So I'll just go to all the reports that we heard from like Dallas Morning News and then the TV shows. Huh, that's weird. Swatting. I mean, where you try to use the police force to intimidate, if not harm, your perceived political opponents here. Not a whole big mention. Well, there is some other news in the Metcalf drama that's going on. The judge was doxxed. Well, judge wasn't doxxed. The judge was almost doxxed, whatever that means. So I guess that makes the news. WFAA.
The Collin County Sheriff's Department and the FBI are investigating after a judge overseeing a North Texas murder case became the victim of doxing. Now, doxing is when someone's private information, like their address or phone number, is posted online without their permission. The sheriff's office confirms it happened to Collin County Judge Angela Tucker. She is presiding over the Carmelo Anthony case. He is accused of murdering a fellow Frisco ISD athlete at a track meet. On April 14th, Tucker lowered Anthony's bond. He was then released. That same night, Collin County investigators say Tucker's information was posted online. It is a crime to dox a judge, and they say whoever did it will be prosecuted. Anthony is 17 years old. He is charged with murder in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf.
So there you go. That's the dangerous part that the judge was exposed to. Meanwhile, the other side is getting swatted for the fourth time. No headlines. No big deal. The only way we know about it is he posted it on Facebook, and then a bunch of people had to reply to it and ask a bunch of questions. And then one of these enterprising sort of freelance journalists reaches out to the Frisco Police Department or whoever the local police department is. I think it was Frisco in this case, to confirm it. And so we have that, but we had to go get that ourselves. We had to go get that on X or Facebook or a combination of the few. So here we go. The drama is not dying down around this case. You know, that was funny. The guy last week was like, "Why do you pay so much attention to this case?" Well, because everybody is. You know, one thing I'm going to do when I turn on this microphone and have a show with you, if there's something you're already talking about, we're going to talk about it. But there's a lot of mounting controversies around this case, obviously. Swatting is wrong, whether it happens to your political allies or your political opponents. So can we just all stop doing that? But then we have a couple of unique angles to look at this story with. Number one, wouldn't it help if this was condemned by both sides? Wouldn't it help if Dominic Alexander or someone else on Carmelo Anthony's team or one of his parents came out and said, "Hey, can we stop swatting the Metcalfs?" Wouldn't that be nice? And if there's been a swatting going the other way, I would expect the same out of Team Metcalf. And then there's the obvious question, what do we do about this swatting stuff? It almost seems the more we talk about it, the more it happens. Like we're giving dumb people bad ideas and they're acting on them. So what do we do? Just shut up and stop talking about it? Will it go away? I'm not sure if that'll work either. Swatting's getting scary because people have died from swats. Now, it's been super duper rare, and it was years ago. But when I asked, after the first swatting call, actually, there were people who sent me links to a story about some guy in like Wichita in 2017. He was a gamer that got swatted by like a rival gamer that he had ticked off, and he ended up getting himself killed from some police confusion. So I like the idea of maybe treating this as an attempted murder or attempted manslaughter or something to that effect, reckless endangerment. But the problem really becomes, how do you catch these guys? If none of these guys get caught, if it's really hard to catch these guys, like we don't even know who swatted Ken Paxton's house last year, and he is the DA for the state, or Attorney General, wrong prosecutor level there, but he's the Attorney General for the state, and they couldn't track down who did it. So this is wild because I'm not sure if there's anything we can do about this. And then the other third angle that's sort of unique to this is, man, look at how quickly the media jumps on the attempted doxing of the judge. And it's attempted because that's the way they say it online. Like WFAA, Collin County judge presiding over Frisco track meet stabbing case, victim to attempted doxing, police say. And that's not a new story. That was published yesterday afternoon. It got updated this morning, a couple hours before the James show. And so I don't know if there was like a second attempt, because her stuff had been put online at the beginning of this, right after the bond hearing. But the Collin County Sheriff's Office confirmed on Friday that Judge Tucker was the victim of an attempted doxing. And I'm not saying that's not newsworthy. Sure it is. But isn't the swatting newsworthy as well? 800-288-9227. This is John in McKinney. You're on WBAP. What do you think, John?
I think the Anthony team is trying to get this case moved out of Collin County. They want it down in Dallas, or I think over in Denton, so they could get a little more of a sympathetic jury to plead their case.
So you think that they're doing the swatting, or they're purposefully encouraging the swatting?
The second one.
Purposefully encouraging it?
Yes, that, or just the whole flipping the whole victimhood behavior. Flipping the victimhood from the aggressor to the family who was the victim in this whole situation, and trying to make it seem like they're the bad guys, and be able to come forward and say, hey, we can't get a fair trial here, and we want to move it out of this jurisdiction.
Yeah, but how do they get to choose where it goes, or does the judge choose where it goes? Because
that I'm not sure how exactly the legal ramifications of being able to get who they go to say, hey, let's get this moved out of here. I guess that's all up to his legal team. But if that's just the appearance that everything looks to me. I don't think they think they're going to get what they consider a fair trial in Collin County.
So John in McKinney, hopefully I can remember making you this promise, but next time I have one of these lawyers on that handles such, probably Jeremy Rosenthal. I think he's coming on tomorrow. I'll be sure to try and remember to ask him about them moving the case. What are the mechanisms of that? Because that does make a lot of sense, John.
Okay, I'll be listening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. If you want to jump in, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, let's dispel this myth that Trump's kicking down doors, taking 2-year-old babies, throwing them on a plane, and sending them to a foreign country. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3, 800-288-9227. So a story hit on Friday, and everyone picked it up in the news cycle, and it got beat down on your social media all weekend. Hopefully you weren't paying a whole lot of attention to your social media. But it was an endless drumbeat all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then going into the Sunday morning shows, Meet the Press, Face the Nation. That was one of the topics. That was one of the stories that was brought up because it's an interesting angle that they've got here. They've been trying to tell you, and I mean you like with the capital Y, the American public, that deportations are bad and everybody thinks that they're awful and they're inhumane and they divide families and it's terrible. And a Maryland father, and they take trips down to El Salvador and they go try and meet with the president of other countries. And then they try and meet with MS-13 gang members. And they try and tell you that this is the greatest guy in the world. Donald Trump's so evil. But I think we found a case. Out in Louisiana, 3 kiddos were deported and they're American citizens. You mean Donald Trump is deporting American citizens? Oh my God, he must be literally Hitler. So I just saw the headlines, and I made the assumption without clicking through, because on the weekends, I'm dad. I'm at 2 soccer games. I do volleyball and take my kid to jazz practice and go to lunch with mother-in-law and all kinds of stuff, right? So I'm just being a normal human being, and I don't ever click. I didn't click through this weekend and read the headlines, but you know intuitively that there's something wrong with this storyline here. That narrative makes no sense. Like we have, like anybody, Trump included, Hitler included, would go kick down a door, take a 2-year-old from his mom, throw him on a plane, and send him to a foreign country. Like, no, I don't think anyone's ever done that in the history of humanity. But you're being accused of supporting this now. So let's break it down. Well, what really happened? I have 2 versions of it. The first will be Tom Homan on Face the Nation. Tom Homan is your border czar. And this is how it was framed by Face the Nation. We're just taking babies, ripping them away from their moms and sending them to random countries. Is that what we're doing?
On Friday, there were 3 American citizen children born here who were deported along with their mothers from Louisiana down to Honduras. And according to advocates, one of them is a 4-year-old child with stage 4 cancer, a rare form of metastatic cancer, who was sent back to Honduras without getting to talk to a doctor and without medication. I understand this child's mother entered this country illegally, but isn't there some basis for compassionate consideration here that should have allowed for more consultation or treatment?
Well, it's certainly discretion.
So you get the setup here, right? She slips in. Yeah, we had 3 minor American citizens who were deported along with their mothers. And one of them has cancer and it's really bad, like stage 2, 3, stage 4. Yeah, stage 4 cancer. That's the ticket. Won't you find an exception even then? So that's the setup. Tom Homan comes to blow it right out of the water. I love this guy sometimes.
Well, it's certainly discretion. I'm not aware of the specific case, but no U.S. citizen child was deported.
There you go.
Deported means you got to be deported by the immigration judge. We don't deport U.S. citizens.
The mother was deported along with the children.
The children aren't deported. The mother chose to take the
children. All right, I let the record show that she has said these children have been deported, and then when he corrected her, she insisted on using that verbiage. Let's see how long that lasts. Were these children actually deported?
With her. Now, when you enter the country illegally, and you know you're here illegally, and you choose to have your citizen child, that's on you. That's not on its administration. If you choose to put your family in that position, that's on them. But having a U.S. citizen child after you enter this country illegally is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It doesn't make you immune from our laws. If that's the message we send to the entire world, women are going to keep putting themselves at risk to come to this country. You know, we send a message. You can enter the country legally, which is a crime. That's okay. You can have due process, great taxpayer expense, get ordered moved. That's okay. Don't leave. But have a U.S. citizen child and you're immune from removal, that's not the way it works.
So you don't think there should be compassionate consideration for a 4-year-old child undergoing treatment for cancer?
See, there it is, compassionate. Therefore, if you're against it, you're not compassionate. Shouldn't there be compassionate consideration?
I didn't say that. I said
that was the question.
ICE officers do have discretion.
Yeah.
ICE officers do have discretion. I'm not familiar with the specific case. I don't know what facts surround this case. I've just made aware of this when you mentioned this morning. I was not aware of that case.
On Friday, a federal judge who was appointed by President Trump said a 2-year-old American citizen child had been sent to Honduras with the mother who was deported. But the judge said, quote, there was no meaningful process. So again, this is another similar situation and dynamic. Shouldn't there be special care when these deportation cases involve small American-born children?
Well, first of all, I disagree with the judge. There was due process. That female had due process at great taxpayer expense and was ordered by the immigration judge after those hearings. So she had due process. Again, this is parenting 101. You can decide to take that child with you, or you can decide to leave the child here with a relative or another spouse. Having a U.S. citizen child doesn't make you immune from our laws of the country. American families get separated every day by law enforcement. Thousands of times a day when a parent gets put in jail, the child can't go with them. These, if you're an illegal alien, come to this country, and you decide to have a U.S. citizen child, that's on you. You put yourself in that position.
Well, when it came to this particular case, you just pointed out that they could have made arrangements. The father tried, actually, to make arrangements, as we understand it through our reporting. But he and the mother, who were separated since she was in detention after showing up for her appointment, was only allowed a very brief phone call. The father tried to petition to get the child handed over to an American citizen relative. So the mother had to make this decision and took the child with her.
Oh!
It just seems like there could be some more time frame here.
Did you catch that? She said the mom made the decision to take the baby, which means the Trump administration didn't take the baby and send it out the country. The mom took the baby with her, and it was her decision. It wasn't a judge's decision. It wasn't ICE decisions. It was the mom's decision. Does she not have any compassionate exemptions?
Around due process allowed. That's what the judge is saying there should have been more of a process here.
There was due process. The 2-year-old baby was left with the mother because the mother signed a document requesting her 2-year-old baby go with her. That's the parent's decision. I don't think the judge knows specifics of this case. The 2-year-old went with the mom. The mom signed a paper saying, "I want my 2-year-old to go with me." That's a parent's decision. It's not a government decision. It's a parent's decision.
And the question has been all weekend: is this what you voted for? Is this what you voted for? To have little kids have to go back to their parents' country of origin when the parents get deported? Is this what you voted for? Because they seem to be absolutely shocked that you would be okay with this, that you would be okay with deporting illegals who have legal kids here, who have citizen children. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with deporting someone's mom when they have a citizen child? Or do you think having a baby that is an American citizen just because it was born here is the get out of jail free card from immigration laws? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Now, I think it's absolutely not a get out of jail free card, and we'll explore this next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, homeowners, a lot of bad weather over the weekend. I got a lot of rain. I got a little bit of wind. If you have any doubt, if you're missing one shingle from your roof, you need to remember BlueRibbonDFW.com. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. Not only were they nice enough to sponsor the WeatherCon, that was fantastic, actually. You could have come out and met the family-owned business yourself, because John, Tish, and Trevor were there, and I got to hang out with all of them, take a picture. It was good times. And so when you are looking to have your roof checked out, maybe you don't know if something's wrong and you just need to take advantage of the free inspection, I want you to go to BlueRibbonDFW.com first. Now, if they find something wrong, we'll talk about your options on getting it back up to snuff. If you do need a whole new roof, they can help you with the most annoying part, is that's dealing with the insurance company. You haven't done that before. I've only done it once in my life. Blue Ribbon Roofing's done it thousands of times, and so they know all the little tips and tricks and can help you out with all that. So BlueRibbonDFW.com, BlueRibbonDFW.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, it's a crazy story about the way this is being framed. The Trump administration is deporting children. They're citizens. So a lot of people see the headlines and they won't click through to it. And, you know, they're just used to accepting whatever the headlines say. Like, oh, my goodness, literally Hitler's doing something else that's awful. I knew it. I knew he was lying. He's not just deporting criminals and illegals. Now he's deporting U.S. citizens without due process. He's literally Hitler. And then you go find out in the story that Trump didn't deport any children. Children that are citizens can't be deported. But when their moms get deported, they actively choose to take the children with them. And they had the option. They were the ones who took the American citizen, to another country. And so, look, if you have the same sort of wrath for Donald Trump removing an American citizen and sending them to another country, do you have the same amount of wrath for the mom? Oh, no, it's only bad. Okay, it's just something evil when Trump does it. Oh, I got it. And that is piggybacked on the story that made your jaw drop last week about the two judges that got arrested, one that had an illegal immigrant with ties to Tren de Aragua. That's a real fun gang out of Venezuela, living in his guest house. One of them. The other one was the judge. Where was that? Like Milwaukee or somewhere, where she hit a dude who reportedly had been caught up in some violence against another man and a woman, sending them both to the hospital. And who cares what the rap sheet is? When I showed up, she kicked him out of the courtroom, took him back in their chambers, showed him the back door, and helped him get away. She got arrested for that. And this is not going to go the way they think it's going to go. Back in James Show history, for two of my iterations, the executive producer on the James Show was a black guy named Chris. Met him in New Orleans. He worked on my show in New Orleans. Also worked on it when I was in Waco. For those of you who know me from the Waco show, do you remember Mr. Producer? Well, Mr. Producer's dad was murdered. Not during the show. Way before I met him, even. But he made the case that he became politically open-minded. The reason why he wasn't like just a brain-dead automaton for Team Blue is when his dad got killed, there was no protest for his dad. No one came out and held up a placard. There were no black activists that had a rally or held up a sign or made any proclamations in the news. There was no accusations of racism. No one made any big deal of it in the news at all. Yeah, it was just some guy on the West Bank got killed. Oh, well, moving on along. No one's going to remember the 1-year anniversary of it. No one's going to follow the court case and the grand jury hearing. No one's going to dox the judge. No one's going to swat the other family. It was just completely forgotten about. No big deal. And so he had a little bit of pent-up jealousy there for cases like when you see a Carmelo Anthony or a Trayvon Martin or a George Floyd. Why do these people get all this attention when it looks like they did something wrong and they're not great people? And let's just stick with George Floyd because it's already been adjudicated. Not a great person, but this is the guy that gets deified when he dies. But your dad gets ignored. There's a lot of people that are listening in Dallas right now who fit this, black, white, Hispanic, whatever. When you had your family member get murdered, anyone care? Anyone make a big fuss about it in the news? Or think about it like this. When you had a family, it was something far more common, when you had your family member go to prison, did any of these people care about your family being split up? I was just playing you. Who was that? Like Caitlin Collins over there? Or who does Face the Nation now? I don't even remember. And then the other one was Alex Wagner on Meet the Press, giving Marco Rubio a hard time. Excuse me, did y'all care about any of the thousands of Americans whose families are split up when they get sent to prison on a daily basis? Did any of these politicians go visit your family member in prison? It might have been your dad. It might have been your husband. It might have been your brother. More likely like a cousin or a wayward uncle or whatnot, or a nephew or something like that. But a lot of us have had some family members go to prison, and none of you had a senator go visit them in prison, did you? None of them had 5, or was it 4? I think it was 4 congressmen go visit them. And my uncle was just in Beaumont. He wasn't even in El Salvador. No one went and visited him. No one went and visited your family member in prison. For what little mention he got in the media, if you go look it up, he wasn't called a Texas father, like Maryland father over and over. Did any judge try and hide your family member when they had committed a crime to help them evade authorities by showing them the secret back door, the private back door? No. So I think there's a lot of people out there who think they're on Team Blue who are going to get a little ticked off about this, saying, why are y'all making all the fuss over these guys? When it happened to my family, no one cared. 800-288-9227. This is Jack in Decatur. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Jack?
Hey, James. I think if the mothers were chosen to leave their children behind, the Trump administration would have been blamed for separating families.
Yeah. You know what? Marco Rubio said that too. Perfect point. You can't win. You know, if you move to the suburbs, it's white flight. If you move back downtown, it's gentrification. You know, you just can't win.
Exactly. Great show, my friend. Thank you for pushing it.
Solid point. I probably should have said that earlier. I had it in the Marco Rubio audio, but I'm kind of running out of time on that and didn't want to play the whole thing. But thank you for saying that, Jack, because that is a good point. Absolutely. Either you're deporting citizen children or you're splitting up families. Can't win. 800-288-9227 if you want to jump in. Coming up next, I have an immigration lawyer. Susha Modi is going to be back on the James Show and give a little more details on what's going to happen with these judges and the process for children and whatnot. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. A lot of immigration questions swirling around, whether it's the judges that were helping the alleged reported whatever illegal immigrants, or the situation where the minor American citizens are going home with their deported parents. Susham Modi's back on to make a little bit more sense of that. Welcome back, Susham.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to be back.
Okay, so any updates on the judges? I think we had talked about this last week. I know we did on the show, but I think we talked about it with you specifically last week. Do we know the charges and a little bit more about the situation that these judges are in that are accused of harboring illegal immigrants?
Yeah, it's not harboring. The charges are going to be obstruction of justice is going to be the main criminal complaint that was against the Milwaukee judge, Dugan.
All right. Is that a serious charge? Is that like a felony or a misdemeanor? What is she facing here?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a serious charge. You know, I don't practice criminal law. I practice immigration law, but it can be a serious charge. Now, there was, a similar incident in 2018 against another judge, I believe in Massachusetts as well. But that one, in terms of the criminal case, hadn't gone anywhere. And the reason why is it's difficult to convict somebody on an obstruction of justice charge because one of those elements is criminal intent. So it's very hard to determine criminal intent in a case like that. And so that could be one issue of several that we can discuss.
Okay, yeah. And what about the guy who had the illegal living in his guest house? What's that one called? Because I think you had made a similar case last week that you have to sort of improve intent that he knew it was an illegal and he was harboring someone who wasn't supposed to be here.
Yeah, I think that one dealt more with tampering of evidence. I believe a phone was destroyed that was in that home.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and so that's a bit of a different matter. And it dealt with a judge, but it wasn't a judge who was active at the courthouse at that time, for example.
Okay, so let's move on to the case that came to the media attention on Friday with the kids that had been sent out of the country with their mom who was deported, and they were legal citizens. So walk us through. We know nothing about the details of this process, Susham. What happens if there is an illegal parent with a citizen minor child and the illegal parent gets ordered deported?
Yeah, I mean, first, in terms of U.S. citizens cannot be deported, right? I mean, there's only in very limited circumstances like denaturalization proceedings, for example, if they, found to try to overthrow the U.S. government or something, very rare, extreme circumstances, and they would be able to go to federal court. So the U.S. citizen children, even as children, they cannot be lawfully deported. In this case, the Department of Justice is alleging they did not deport the U.S. citizen children, but that the mother had agreed to take the children with her. So, there is I think it's going to be clarified over time. It's not completely clear because the records haven't been released of exactly what happened. But those are the two sides of the argument there. Yeah,
so Tom Homan said on Face the Nation that there's some form you fill out that the parent has to fill out, and they make the decision on what happens with the kid, if it stays in America or jumps on the plane with them. Do you know much about that form? Does it have a number or something?
Yeah, I mean, there is a form, but again, we just don't know what happened in this particular circumstance. The department is alleging one thing, and nonprofit organizations are alleging lack of any due process, for example, which is important. I mean, we're dealing with U.S. citizens here, and so it's important that all the right boxes are checked here. I'd like to, if you don't mind, go back. I hadn't mentioned something that is important.
Sure, we got 2.5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. On the Judge Dugan issue, which is, one of the biggest misconceptions for immigration is that these individuals are criminals. You see a lot of media and political posts of them being criminal, illegal aliens. That's not true. So most of immigration law is actually civil law. It's not criminal law. Think civil law like torts, like when you sue somebody. And so when somebody gets put in deportation proceedings, for example, that is a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. And the reason that's important is, like, for example, like they don't usually get a right to even a counsel, like a Sixth Amendment right to free counsel, like you do in criminal court. And that's really, really important here because one of the issues that arise with Judge Dugan, she was a state court judge, like doing criminal proceedings. And so whenever ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they try to arrest someone who's undocumented is really the right term instead of illegal. Because, people can't be legal, and neither is it criminal law. But if they tried to arrest someone there, one of the common things that they have, and I think they had here, was an administrative warrant, not a judicial warrant. So a judicial warrant is signed by like a different judge, and you can go into at times private spaces. An administrative warrant is only allowed in public places. And again, this is a civil matter, not a criminal matter. And so that's going to be another issue at play here, because what had happened, at least the criminal complaint states or alleges, is that ICE officers came to the state criminal court and tried to remove this individual, but his hearing hadn't been done yet, his criminal hearing. And so there's an issue of was it trying to interfere with the criminal hearing against this individual, and then also an issue of public versus private places. So, like outside the courtroom in the hallway could be a public place, but inside the courtroom is like a semi-public and a right to have that court proceeding, the criminal state court proceeding, not be interfered with. So that's what I wanted to kind of just clarify and talk to you about as another issue that can come around, and also a clarification of what immigration court proceedings are in terms of being civil in nature and administrative warrants.
Oh, Susham, that was great. That's the kind of breakdown we hope to get from you. This is Susham Modi, immigration expert. Where do we find you online, Susham?
Yeah, it's just the Modi Law Firm, MODI lawfirm.com. And again, thanks for having me here. I hope this was helpful to you.
Oh, it definitely was. We really appreciate it. Thank you, sir. That was good stuff. All right. See, it's nice to have someone with a little expertise instead of just some hick who crawled out of the woods in East Texas yammering his mouth. Your thoughts on Susham, you can bring them on 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. But coming up next, I have some pretty good economic news. Stick around for that on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Stick around. Coming up, we're going to talk about the economy. It's looking pretty good. Not great. We're not out of the woods yet, but there are green shoots and some numbers that aren't being reported that I think you'd be interested in. But first, we're going to wipe up this immigration chat here because there's the dual cycle of headlines with the judges that are getting arrested for helping out with illegal immigrants, and then there's also the report on Friday that dropped that was on social media all weekend. Minor American citizen children are now being deported, which is completely misleading, not true. They're being actively taken by their parents who are being deported, and they have the choice on whether or not to leave them here or take them with them. So that totally changes when you read past the first headline and the first paragraph and really the first 8 paragraphs, and you get to the part where, it was the mom's decision, and she signed off on taking the kid with her. Well, that doesn't sound nearly as evil. 800-288-9227. This is David in Austin. You're on WBAP. What do you think, David?
Well, listen, I listened to that so-called immigration expert. He's a partisan. He gave very inaccurate, false information about the difference between administrative law and criminal law. I've had a website for 10 years on the immigration law. In the 8 USC section 1325, I believe it is, about illegal entry. It's a criminal matter to begin with. That little paragraph, though, says that also they can impose civil penalties. And so the immigration lawyers, to build their craft, love to say, well, this is just a civil matter, it's not criminal. No, it's a misdemeanor crime. The first re-entry, the second and subsequent entries are felonies. That's the fact.
Okay, but the first one, is that handled in a criminal court or a civil court, or do you have the choice?
There's no such thing as a criminal and administrative in this matter. It's criminal. The fellow was wrong. He was not telling you an untruth.
Okay, but there are different courts, right? There's civil court and criminal court. And do some of these cases go through the civil side of it?
No, they're all criminal because a misdemeanor is a crime. It's just not something less than a year of incarceration. A year or more is a felony.
All right, but I think what they would say, and I'm not the lawyer, I'm just trying to channel what I've heard from some of my guests here, is that, that misdemeanor would be taken care of in a criminal court, but this whole process of determining someone's status and whether or not they need to be deported would be in a civil court.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
You guys are wrong. He's building up business for himself is all he's doing.
Well, I don't really know enough to argue with you on this one, David, so I guess.
Good. Well, I'm giving.
Right, good. Yeah, I guess
Okay,
you win by default, David. Thank you for calling in. Yeah, if he's right, that is kind of a pain in the butt, isn't it? All right, let's talk about some economic news here, because what you are going to hear every day for the next 4 years, or at least 3.5 years, that the economy is the 7th level of hell. It's where you're in Dante's Inferno. You're just walking over hot coals every day, and every day that you're going to get a report from these certain platforms, it's going to be bad news. No matter what it is, no matter what happens, it's going to be bad. So if stock market goes up, oh, look, the Trump's rigging the economy for millionaires and billionaires. Stock market goes down. Look, Trump's tanking the economy. You're not going to win. So don't ever expect to get fair reporting for the next 3.5 years on anything that could overlap one molecule with Team Red. Now, that being said, what do you do about that? Well, you go to other outlets. And in this situation, Fox Business is pretty good. There are a lot of people at Fox Business who are not very politically minded. Sure, they lean Team Trump, but they have an allegiance to the market. They have an allegiance to the economy, and they'll definitely tell you when he gets off base. But like today, stock markets are up. Dow Jones is up 0.3%. NASDAQ up 0.1%. S&P's up 0.25%. I don't know if that's where it'll finish. It was down earlier. It just made it all up from today. But listen to this. On top of this being a pretty good Monday, did you know last week was a positive week in the markets? Not huge, like maybe 1% or 2%, depending on which of the indices you're looking at. But the week before that, you actually had a great day. A great week in the market. In fact, it was the best week in the market in 2 years, since 2023. which isn't like a long-standing record, but it was better than any week that you had in 2024. Where were the headlines on that? Did you hear a whole lot of pounding on that? Did you hear a whole lot of that being thrown around in the news reports? No, you didn't. So I'll fill in some of that. Listen, if you're looking for reasons to be pessimistic, you can always find them in economic news. If you're looking for reasons to be optimistic or pessimistic, it's really the same thing. You can find what you're looking for if you dig hard enough. But make no mistake, you're not getting any better reporting on the economy than you got on Hunter Biden's laptop, or than you got on the Russia collusion hoax, or you got on the Jussie Smollett coverage. But we just had 2 good weeks, not great weeks. We had a good like I'd say an almost great week and a pretty good week in a row. And we're starting off this week okay. But we do have this little 90-day window where the tariffs got paused, where that's about to run out. And so we're either going to get a handful of trade deals announced. They're working out some details, is what we're told. Scott Bessent said over the weekend, your Treasury Secretary. Or if these tariffs either come back on or we have to keep extending it, if he pushes the 90-day button again, then it doesn't even have to be bad news. It just has to be uncertainty, and the markets are going to struggle. The big one everyone's watching, though, is China. China is saying that they're not talking to Trump and they won't move and they're not going to play this game with Donald Trump, but they are secretly, and I don't want to say secretly, just without fanfare, making some changes and making some giving up a little bit of ideological territory, lowering some of their tariffs on semiconductors and airplane parts. And you're seeing a little bit of progress to where they're saying we're not standing, we're not budging. Trump can't make us do anything, but they're doing it while they're saying they're not. So we may, man, you know what I keep thinking of? When we did that time capsule a little over a month ago, it was on, I think, March 14th. We recorded a bunch of economic predictions on a James show, and I pulled that clip and I set it to the side. We're going to visit it next year. Next year, we're not even going to be talking about tariffs and trade wars. We're not going to be talking about surpluses and deficits in the trade partner situation. We may be talking about surpluses and deficits in our national budget. But the economy is looking pretty strong, and there's good reason to believe that it's only going to get better. Of course, if you really want to find some reasons to worry, you can find that. But the economy actually bounced back pretty good in the last 2 weeks. And if things are feeling pretty good to you, even though you're seeing all kinds of negative news on the headlines, that's why things are going pretty good. And you know what? When you break it down to the microcosm of just Texas, we have a tendency to weather these things better than other states because our economy is so diversified. So, whether oil goes up or goes down, we have a bunch of other industries that have a foothold in here that can sort of balance that out. But things are looking good, and you're going to hear it here, whether it's good or bad. I will not give you just the one side of the economic news. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next, we have an investing analyst from Bankrate to talk about the progress on Trump's tariff deals. And I'm going to ask you the question, do you really want Made in America? Because I don't think you do. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So how is the economy really doing? Listen to one side of the media, it's doing fantastic. Listen to the other side of the media, it's doing absolutely terrible. Seventh level of hell, Dante's Inferno, all that. You look at the actual data, today is mixed. While we were on that last break, the NASDAQ just dipped into the red, but the S&P and Dow Jones are in the green for today. My next guest is going to help us make a little bit more sense of it. It's another James Royal, on from Bankrate. Welcome, other James.
Hey, good afternoon.
So, where are we at with the trade wars? I think that's what we're all looking for, is when this 90-day window of trade pause or tariff pauses expires, are we going to have enough deals for optimism going forward?
Well, that's the real, $1 million question here, or $1.5 trillion question, or however you want to phrase that, right? Everybody's sort of focused on that. What happens, and we've seen a bounce back in the market in the last, week or 10 days since Trump put that pause on. Trump has come out and said, well, we've got couple hundred deals in the works, but there's lots of indications that maybe that's not accurate. And the market is 100% keyed in on, the effects of these tariffs and what's going to happen here after this 90-day period.
All right. Well, James, other James from Bankrate, I have a theory here. Like, he hasn't released any of the trade deals. I'm sure some of them are done, but as a businessman, you don't want to release them one at a time. You want to release them all at once so the other guys you're currently negotiating with can't see what the other guys got.
Well, absolutely. So if you've got some deals in the can already, you don't want to know the terms. You don't want to reveal the terms that you gave to your first parties when, exactly as you say, when you're still negotiating with your other parties. And so, there's absolutely some reason to keep those in your vest until you're ready to reveal some successes and, where you're going to go forward. But you're absolutely right.
Well, I think the next question people are looking for is, when are the rates going to go back down? We all got spoiled with low interest rate mortgages and, lower borrowing on our credit card and auto loans. Is that coming back?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We get back in 2020, 2021, we had, the Fed lowered interest rates to near zero as part of that COVID pandemic. Right now, the Trump tariffs the potential effects of the Trump tariffs are really leading investors to expect higher inflation. And, what that's translated into now is higher interest rates on 10-year bonds, which is the basis for mortgage prices, for mortgage rates.
Right.
So right now, investors are saying, hey, look, because of this expectation, we're expecting higher inflation. We need to get paid more for that. And so they're selling off bonds, which raises their yield, which makes mortgages more expensive. And so what we've seen in the last few weeks is those mortgage rates moving back towards 7%. So, we're going to have an economy that slows down a lot more for the Fed to decide that it needs to cut those short-term interest rates and settle that inflation. We're going to really need to see inflation settle down a lot before interest rates come back down. And, and then that translates into those lower mortgage rates for, your everyday buyers. So 4%, it's going to really take maybe even a recession before we see rates that low for some time.
Don't we get the Q1 GDP number this week?
We're going to see Q1. We're going to see the GDP numbers very soon, and we're going to, in not too much longer, we're going to see April unemployment figures as well. April inflation figures as well. So those are going to be important data points for investors. People are closely watching how much these tariffs are going to push up inflation. And so those are going to be key data points to see how the economy is performing and what we can expect from here. So we haven't seen a whole lot of push through yet from the tariffs in terms of inflation. But that's going to be the key watch point. And the thing is, a lot of investment banks, for example, have raised their expectations for recession on the basis of these tariffs and a slowdown in the economy due to that. So they're raising their expectations for recession in 2025. We'll see how it plays out.
Well, James Royal, does Bankrate have a recession prediction number?
Well, we don't make specific predictions on the odds of recession, but I think one of the things we think about is how should individual investors be thinking about this? And markets go up, markets go down, and what you want to be doing is playing the long game as an individual investor, investing for the long term. And sticking to that long-term wealth building plan. So ultimately, that's the perspective that Bankrate takes when we're thinking about, how individuals should invest. That said, this could be a wake-up call if you don't have that emergency fund stocked with cash yet. You want to get that 3, 6, 9 months worth of cash so that if something bad happens for the economy and you're affected, then you've got that bridge to get you to the other side safely.
All right. Well, I feel attacked now. Thank you very much, James Royal from Bankrate. I do not have my emergency fund properly stacked up. He's right. I need to work on that. Thank you very much for helping us understand what's going on in the economy from Bankrate over there. Coming up next, you say you like Made in America. You say you want Made in America. But I can prove to you next that you don't really want Made in America. I'm James Parker. That's coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. My next story, I got to give him credit. I heard first on the Casey Bartholomew Show here on WBAP, on from 9 to 11 weekdays. But he found the story, and this was just, I've been looking for a test case like this. When it comes to Made in America, well, a Shark Tank guy, one of the guys associated with Shark Tank, did an experiment. And there is an operation that makes shower heads. Now, they make them in Asia for now, but they wanted to see what would happen. What if we had some that were made in Asia and then some that were made completely in America? First, what would the difference in price be? And then secondly, how would you, as the consumer, react? Well, a lot of us have had our theories and tried to pull data from the real world. But rarely do you see a situation that is this stark and this decisive. For the shower head, and it must be some kind of awesome, luxurious shower head, for being made in Asia, $129. What the heck have you... I have never paid $129 for a shower head. Good Lord. I thought we upgraded... when we got the new house, Miss Parker wanted one of the shower heads with the little detachable handle or whatever. So we had to upgrade our shower head, and I think that was maybe $60. But the Shark Tank inventor here said, all right, what would it cost if we did this solely in America? Identical to the one that was manufactured in China. The U.S. supplier cost $239. Uh-oh. So that is a difference in price of $110, and this is for a shower head. So they sold the two identical websites on their website, afina.com, A-F-I-N-A. And they posted the results on Thursday. Results absolutely dismal. You want to know how many customers out of the 3,500 that were purchased, how many customers bought the American version versus the Asian version? What do you think? If it was 10%, that's 350. So was it? No. If it was 1%, then it would be 35. Okay. So if it was like 0.1%, it could be like 3 or 4. No? The real number, I don't know. Joe Biden, do you have a guess?
$1,000,000,400,000,600,000,000,000.
No, not that many. A better guess?
2.
No, it's even less than that. 1. No, it's not that one. No, it's not. 0. 0 customers bought the U.S. version. 3,500 people went to the website and said, I need to spend over $100 on a shower head. And even at this luxurious level of spending, not one person, because it was clearly labeled made in China. The other one clearly labeled made in America. Not one person out of 3,500 bought the American made version. You can't get 3,500 people to agree on anything. Pepperoni pizza versus cheese pizza, pineapple on pizza. You can't get 350 or 3,500 people to believe on, I guess, shower heads. This is how powerful it is. This is how powerful the price difference is with foreign trading. Now, it's not just that, okay, we have this company is going to go out of business, and I guess there's not going to be an American supplier of shower heads. Let me tell you why this is a good thing. Because for all of these 3,500 people that went and got the cheaper shower head, if there's 3,500, that means multiply that by 100. Just round it down, and we'll be generous with the numbers here. How much money did these people save? $350,000 is now still floating around the economy that can be spent elsewhere, that could be spent at your business, that could be spent at a local restaurant, that could be invested in, I don't know, an ETF and thrown into the market. It could go to pay down credit card debt, which means your monthly bill would be lower for here going out. But we're all actually better off as long as we have that gap being that big. The extra money that's going to be able to float around our cash registers instead of go to the shower head guy. Here's the shocking part. We're all better off. Even the foreigners are better off in this situation. Sure, they only get $3 an hour to work in a place that doesn't have air conditioning to get a job that you would jump off the roof if you had to do it for a couple of days. But this is better than their alternative. Remember, they took this job because their previous job was even worse, either in pay or working conditions. But if you bought everything, think about it. Let's extrapolate showerhead to everything that you buy this month. You know how much your standard of living would go down if you had to buy everything made in America? You know what your entertainment budget would go to? It would go to zero. You'd probably have to get rid of one of your cars. You might even have to downsize into a smaller house or rent a smaller apartment. Now, the standard of living of foreigners would go down. The standard of living of Americans would go down. The only people it's really good for is the poor suckers who have the job of snapping together shower heads in some dank factory in Wisconsin or wherever it's going to end up being. That's the only guy that's getting a raw deal out of this. And this is for a job that's a pretty low level, sounds like an entry level factory job. It's not even a great job. So what, we're going to sacrifice the standard of living, not just for Americans, but for the people on the other side of the pond that are making it, just so this guy can keep what's essentially a crappy job by American standards? That's not smart, economically speaking. Steve, Weatherford, you're on the James Show. Steve, what do you think?
The cheap prices we pay for overseas products are in large part derived from very unsafe working environments, whereas we have OSHA and all kinds of regulatory compliance over here, environmental consideration.
Right.
If the cats in China had to comply with American OSHA and American regulatory compliance issues in their plants, their prices would be a hell of a lot higher too.
Yeah, well, look, even if you did all the OSHA regulations, when you talk about like auto workers, they make $30 an hour or something like that here on average, and in Mexico it's like $3. So even if you want to throw on all the OSHA standards, yeah, it would raise their prices and it would be a pain in the butt for them. But it'd still be almost impossible for us to compete with these third world countries that have extra people doing nothing.
I would say let's get back to common sense regulatory requirements in this country and claw back half our manufacturing base so we're not impaired.
Okay, but Steve, that means different things to different people. When you say common sense regulatory reform, what I mean when I say that is we need to just get rid of most of it. We need to get rid of OSHA. We need to get rid of the FDA. We need to get rid of like CAFE standards and all these standards that are on like auto manufacturing and whatnot. I say get rid of them. And if that rubs some people the wrong way, well, then we can have the economic discussion and I can explain myself on how that won't create, less safe cars or whatever. Think about it. If you didn't have all of these regulations on your cars, there's people who think, well, your car won't be as safe. These regulations keep us safe. Oh, really? You don't think Ford would get sued out of their wallet if they intentionally or negligently made a car that was unsafe? Did all these regulations prevent the Pinto flare up or any of these other recalls or any of these other lawsuits? No. They have the regulations. They still have some of the problems. They still have to pay the price. This is just going to be between you, Ford, and your insurance companies. That's who it's going to be between. Good stuff there, Steve and Weatherford. Remember, the Made in America was tried by Walmart in the 90s. This was the first experiment that you and I had of this. And you saw the same thing I saw. We went into Walmart in 1995, and there would be one bin that said Made in America, and there would be another bin with a similar product next to it that was cheaper, and people would always buy the cheaper stuff. The cheaper bin was empty, and the American bin would be full. You saw it. The market was right. It's just some people didn't like the result. That's all. Coming up next, Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders, local kid Shedeur Sanders, fell to the 5th round in the NFL draft. And I know this isn't a sports talk show, and we're not going to talk X's and O's, but we are going to talk about the controversy around why he fell to the 5th round. Was it collusion from the owners? Was it interference from his dad? Was it poor interviews that he had before the draft? Was it because he skipped the combine? Or was it just flat out good old racism? We'll talk about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Well, the Shedeur Sanders controversy, I can explain it to you for non-football fans. And don't worry, I'm not just doing this because I miss football and I want an excuse to talk about it. This is not going to be a football conversation. This is going to be a sort of societal, cultural conversation because this conversation leaves football really quick. So we have Shedeur Sanders, if you don't know, son of Deion Sanders. He has two kids that are taken in the draft this weekend, which is kind of interesting. Really? Same time? Good for you. Well, he was a quarterback for a couple years at Jackson State, which is a lesser-known HBCU. He transferred when his dad got the coaching job at the University of Colorado, which is a big, not top-tier D1 school, but they're, D1. They're a bigger, legit program. He had kind of a Midland record there, but that's kind of what Colorado's been doing. Can't really blame Shedeur for that. And the controversy arises because we had the draft over the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The experts who watched a whole lot more football than me were generally expecting him to go somewhere in the first round, maybe in the second round. Well, he fell all the way to the fifth round. And it was wild because when he made it out of the first round, there were a few headlines. When he made it out of the second round, alarm bells were sounding. Little red lights were blinking like the old police sirens were going off. And so then there was a very ugly conversation that's being had across sports media and social media. And a lot of people are blaming this on racism. Now, of course, there's going to be some people who, like a Tootsie Roll, whatever it is they think they see becomes racism to them. Garrett probably didn't get that reference because he didn't see the commercials when you were a kid growing up, but maybe we'll YouTube it for him later. I don't think it's racism. I think there's 28 other explanations before you get to racism that would make far more sense. Number one reason is the number one pick in the draft was a black quarterback. So they apparently weren't racist against that person of color, that quarterback of color, just you. So they have selective racism. They only have racism if your name's Shedeur or Sanders. I mean, how does that work? The other more likely explanations, I'm still not too sure of, but I'll tell you where I lean as we're going through the list here. Number one is the idea that this guy skipped the combines. The combine is when a bunch of players who are being recruited for the draft get invited to go to a stadium at a field on a certain day, and they all run these little drills. They see how fast you can run the 40-yard dash. They see how high your vertical leap is, your standing broad jump. They want to see you throw. They want to see you catch, depending on what your position is. So that's one thing, but people have skipped the combine before and not fallen that far. Another popular theory is that the interference of his dad, a lot of people saw as a pain in the butt. That's a maybe, but that would mean Deion is not the person that you and I see on TV. Deion is not the person that we've seen in interviews. Deion's not the person. I read his book back in the day. What was it? All About Money or something? Came out in like 1999. Now, he seems like he's a little full of himself, but there's a sort of a level of accomplishment to where you get a pass. Deion can be full of himself. Deion probably was the greatest cover cornerback in NFL history. Period, point blank, end of story. I can't even think of who would compete with him for that title. So the Deion interference thing, Now, one that seems more likely is that some people are saying he failed his interviews. A handful of teams will call you and they'll sit you down. They'll fly in, they'll sit you down, and you'll talk to management, and you'll talk to coaches, maybe even the owner there, and get a feel for you. What are you looking for? Would you be okay if you didn't start, or are you demanding to start? So a couple of people came out of those interviews and they weren't saying very good things. And you don't have to have collusion. You don't have to have all the owners get on the phone with each other and say, hey, we're not going to pick this guy in the first, second, third, or fourth round, just maybe in the fifth round as soon as possible. And what, y'all all just let Cleveland get lucky with this amazing pick because you colluded? Stop it. This makes a little bit of sense. Poor interviews. But maybe it's just an easy combination of all these, because one of the comparisons that was being made is no one had a problem with it when Archie Manning, had his son in the draft. And you have this former NFL legend trying to dictate where his son goes and who he's going to play for and what the terms of his employment are going to be. Yeah, that's not really a good criticism because I remember a lot of people saying negative things about that. A lot of people criticizing Archie Manning, and people to this day, me included, think that's quite a punk move that Eli Manning got drafted by the Chargers and said, there's no way I'm going to go play in San Diego. Y'all can go ahead and trade me now. Yeah, that was a punk move. So no, they didn't escape criticism when it happened for Archie and Eli. But just dismiss these people who have to go past all of these other hurdles, all these other obstacles to land on what they preferred for this to be about anyway, and that's just racism. There's a lot of people, if you haven't seen it, don't go open X or Reddit right now. It's the battle scene from Braveheart, because there's some people that racism is on life support. And it's convulsing, it's dying, it's kind of foaming at the mouth a little bit, and it's about to die. But there are a lot of people out there who are putting this guy on a ventilator and they're pumping him full of fluids and they got him on one of those life support machines and they're just going to keep him going even though he's not technically alive. They're just going to keep the machines on for as long as they can. And boy, that was just a sad, dismal display on the reaction to Shedeur Sanders falling all the way down to the 5th round. Now, we're going to find out really fast. If he turns out to be an excellent quarterback, then they were all right. Shedeur got screwed over. But we'll find out. Ultimately, football is a meritocracy, and this will all be decided on the field in about 6 months. Your thoughts on Shedeur falling to the 5th? You have any better theories? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Now, listen, if you're just joining us, I understand. You have a life, you're busy, and you didn't get to hear the first couple hours of the show. Well, we started talking about the updates in the Metcalf-Anthony drama, the stabbing at the Frisco track meet. The dad was swatted again over the weekend. Meanwhile, the media seems to be more concerned about an attempted doxing of the judge who reduced the bail. The reason I'm telling you about this now is you need to go back and listen to it on the podcast if you missed it. I'm going to put up the podcast right after the show. You can find it at WBAP.com, WBAP app, or really wherever you're listening to podcasts. I know where you're listening to it. You're listening to it on other companies' apps, and I'm not too happy about that, but I can't stop you. So just search for The James Show. We'll work around that. Also, a lot of economic talk, and I'm trying to push back against just the avalanche of pessimism that's coming out of the media, because they're always going to say it's bad. Just for the next 3.5 years, it's going to be bad. But right now, I want to move up to the next topic here, which will also be in the podcast. Just the media in general. Whether we're talking about what's going on with the Carmelo Anthony case, whether what we're talking about that's going on with the judges who got arrested or the children who got, air quotes, deported. I mean, they just get everything so wrong constantly. It's amazing that just the population at large hasn't revolted against these people. And what do you mean by these people? You're in the media, James. Well, yeah, but I didn't get all this stuff wrong. I didn't tell you Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. I didn't tell you Max work. I didn't tell you need to get the vaccine. I didn't tell you need to get the vaccine or lose your job. I didn't tell you the Olympic opening ceremony was making fun of Dionysus, not the Ten Commandments. I mean, how wrong do these people have to be over and over and over? Well, one of my favorite montages was being able to play for you what was happening a year ago. A year ago in the media, right now, we were sitting in April. This was between the State of the Union that happened in February and the bad debate that happened in June. You were being told right now, 1 year ago, that you know who was sharp as a tack. Remember all that?
Come on, man.
Yeah. So how did that turn out for you? Well, we have another one of these examples where when the judges got arrested last week, there was a concern that this is a sign that this is a threat to our democracy. This is someone acting like a dictator. This is scary stuff. This is what tyrants do. They arrest their political opponents. That's what they do. Well, Gravian has the same memory you do. They're a news clip service, an audio clipping service. They made a montage over the last 2 years of when Donald Trump got charged in 4 different jurisdictions with like 90 different crimes. You remember all that? And you and I were suspicious about it. We talked about it on the James Show. Here's a guy who went through the first 77 years of his life not committing any crimes, not being arrested, no mugshots, whatever. And then after he announces he's going to run for re-election, all of a sudden we find 90 crimes to charge him with. That's a hell of a coincidence. In 4 different jurisdictions, that's amazing. But what were you being told? When the presidential candidate of one of the major American political parties was being arrested and charged with various crimes, a lot of people raised the red flag and said, hang on a second. This is what tyrants do. This is literally what Hugo Chavez did to his political opponents. And then his successor, Nicolas Maduro. This is what Vladimir Putin did to his last election opponent. Found some reason to arrest him, throw him in jail, charge him with some trumped up crimes, no pun intended. But no, back then you were told that's not what's going on here at all. All that's going on is that no one is above the law, not even the president. Maybe judges, but not the president.
The idea that no person is above the law is a bedrock principle of American justice.
No man is above the law, no matter what the crime.
And I agree with you. No man is above the law, and no person is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one's above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
He has to be held accountable. He's not above the law.
No one's above the law. Either that nor any other title
puts you above the rule of law.
No one is truly above the law.
That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what it means to not have a king.
They're not above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
Everyone will be treated, as Merrick Garland has said, as equally.
That no one is above the law, which is foundational.
No one is above the law, even a former president.
We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone.
No one is above the law.
The law is the law, and no one should be above it.
Yes, nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one else is above the law, including a president.
Nobody is above the law. You can't have two justice systems in America.
All you got to do is just wait long enough.
System.
Just wait long enough, and these people will contradict everything they said a year from now. Isn't that beautiful? When it's the presidential candidate, a former president, being arrested. Oh, no one's above the law. Jesus. That's what a tyrant would say. And now that arrests are being made, that's what a tyrant would do. It's a beautiful world we live in. When you were growing up, we didn't have all these recordings at our fingertips. We didn't have Gravian pulling it, making montages, putting it up on X so your favorite radio host could play it for you the next day. I think we are in a new era where in this hyper-connected, social media-driven landscape, that people just can't get away with it anymore like they used to. I think that's why this next Gen Z is more red than ever. It's because they know how to work these machines. They know what things are trending. They know how to look something up. And they're getting skeptical enough, especially after COVID, that these people that lied to you through COVID, you might as well just assume that they're lying about everything else. When they tell you this is a threat to democracy, they can go look it up. They're already following accounts or Joe Rogan or The James Show or whatever, and finding, oh, that's not what they said last year. They must be lying. They must be full of garbage. I guess I don't believe them anymore. We really are reaching a new apex here, an informed public. And if that's the case, then the voting results for each election are just going to keep getting slightly better until this trend stops. Isn't that fantastic? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Other good news coming up. The Ukraine war might be coming to an end. Find out next from David Hamilton on from America's Future series on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Whenever we hear positive news from the Ukraine-Russia situation, we've learned to kind of pause because we've gotten positive news before that hadn't turned out. So David Hamilton's here from America's Future Series to help break down some of it, because I heard, there was another meeting, there's another round of talks, and some terms have been agreed to. Just we're not quite there yet, so there's optimism there. But then I also heard there was a pretty wicked drone strike over the weekend. So I don't know how I feel about this. How's it going over there, David Hamilton?
Well, it's messy, right? And our conversations that we've had, we've always expected it to be messy. If this was easy, I guess anyone could do it, right? So I think everyone should be happy that we're in conversation, which we weren't before. We need to understand, and no one's misunderstanding that Putin is not terribly trustworthy, nor are the Russians, generally speaking, and that they will use loopholes or whatever to get out of whatever they can get out of. They had made an agreement not to attack Ukraine several years ago. They took the Crimea in 2014 and have had that since then. But they used the supposed provocation of Ukraine joining NATO as their, for national security reasons, was their provocation for going in there. And also the debt, there was several $1 billion in unpaid gas bills. So they use those as their excuse. And again, people say trust but verify. I think don't trust and verify is
right.
a better way to do this. But if we're not talking, and if we don't come up with a deal that's attractive enough for an alternative for Russia to war, nothing's going to get done. So we have to come up with something where everybody's a little bit unhappy. And Zelensky and the Ukrainians are never going to get what they want, which they would like to see punishment. They want to see Russia punished for its war atrocities, and they should be. But I'm not sure we're going to get that. I think what we need to settle for is peace, getting Russia out of Ukraine, no Ukraine in NATO. They'll probably keep the Crimea. We're not sure about the eastern section that is ethnically and linguistically Russian. That is the sticking point. But then if we come up with an approach that is really attractive to them in terms of doing trade, building back the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, becoming, Europe becoming a customer again in America, normalizing trade, getting rid of tariffs, we have the makings of a relationship that is better than being at war. And that's what they've got to work through.
So I don't think there's any way we get out of this without giving up some territory. Am I being too pessimistic?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's a distinction between the Crimea, which they've had for a long time. You're not really giving
for
anything
10 years. How long? How long have they had that?
Years,
yeah, something like that.
For 11 years. So they've had for 11 years. So I really kind of think that's off the table. And Russia's not going to do what they don't have to do. We have to ask ourselves, how good a deal would we have to offer them for them to give up the Crimea without a fight? How much would we have to pay? And by the way, is that America's job? And most Americans would say, oh, I don't know, we can barely pay our own bills. We're not going to, give hundreds of billions, if not maybe $1 trillion, so they can keep the Crimea. That's not going to happen. So they keep that. There is the sliver, the Donbass and the Donetsk, which is on the eastern side. They're going to want to keep some of that too. That's the main sticking point. And then there's sort of the rearming. I mean, Ukraine really kind of got in trouble when they trusted the West and the Russians by giving up its nuclear arsenal. This wouldn't be happening if they still had their nukes, and they had the second largest cache of nukes at the time.
Yeah, too late for that now, though. Mm-hmm. All right. When do you think we're going to have this wrapped up? Do you think this could stretch on for years or months, or are we really seeing the end of this?
I think weeks and months is more plausible. A 3-day ceasefire, which is being recommended or being offered by Putin, is a good first step. Of course, it comes, as you said, on the heel of another attack. So they tend to really, like we talked about in boxing, throw as many punches at the end of the round as we can, and then say, "Hey, let's stop now," right? So, but a 3-day ceasefire to figure out what this deal is going to look like and have everybody get used to it and settle on that is what we need. And it may take weeks or months for that to happen, but it's better than not talking.
All right, you got an event coming up in about 2 weeks?
Yes, sir. Next Thursday, actually, on the 8th. It's a great event. It's all sold out. No worries about that. But thank you for plugging the America's Future Series. We're now we're becoming part of the University of North Texas, and we're creating a National Security Economic Strategy Center, and you'll hear more from us on that in the near future.
All right. Well, congratulations on selling out your event. I'd like to think it's because we promoted it so well on the James Show.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. There's David Hamilton. I hope that wraps up pretty soon. I'm kind of getting tired of war. Coming up next, we're playing Dead or Alive for 2 tickets to see Billy Idol on May 7th. That's next Wednesday. Also with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, so that's a good ticket. If you want to try and win that, you can go ahead and call in right now. We're playing Dead or Alive, so you don't have to have any kind of specialty expertise for this. This is just guessing up or down on 10 celebrities. This week's edition, this week's category, Dallas. These are all people who were born or lived in or currently live in Dallas. So Dead or Alive next on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Bob Lavelle from Home Marketing Services. Good to have you back on the show, because in other good economic news, I saw that this metropolitan area led the country in homes closed. And so that's got to be good news for you guys in the real estate business.
You know, it's not even, you say it and it sounds so simple, like leading the country. And I mean, we really, really are. It is the hottest market to be in right now to be able to get a house. And the fact that these builders have so much inventory right now, we don't get deals like we're getting all the time. And right now we're getting deals that we haven't seen in 2 years. So take advantage of it while you can. It's like when interest rates went down so low, and, you know, when they were at like 2.75 and people saying, I want to wait until it really goes down. Don't be foolish.
No.
Take the time right now to make the call, you know.
Well, and also don't be afraid to make the call on behalf of your kid that needs to get in the house, or on behalf of your spouse that's dragging his feet. You know, sometimes it's not the guy that actually ends up buying the house is the one that makes the call.
That's true. I took a call today from a lady that was actually calling for her daughter, and her daughter is going to come in with her on Wednesday because the daughter's probably going to need some help in a couple of areas. But, you know, if you don't make the call and you don't take that little bit of time to find out where you stand, it's not a matter of let's go out and buy a house. Let's find out what we need to do. What do we have to accomplish before we are ready to go get a house? Because maybe it'll take 6 months, you know?
All right, good stuff. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services. You need to call him, 972-392-9595. 972-392-9595. Go to blessyourheart.com, or if you want to get out of the rent race right now, call 972-392-9595. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, James.
All right, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Who wants to win some tickets to see Billy Idol and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts? Round of applause for the, yeah. 2 people that you might see on a future edition of Dead or Alive, but that's how we're giving away the tickets now. I wouldn't bother calling in because the phone lines are full. But let's go ahead. Let's do this. Dead or Alive. Go, Mr. Jovi. Woohoo! All right, it's a good one. I like it when I have a good prize. If you're new to the show, this is Dead or Alive. It's one of the James Show game shows. This is the easier one. I'm going to give you a list of 10 celebrities, and all you have to do is tell me if they're dead or alive. It really is that simple. James, that sounds easy. Yeah, it is easy. That's why you should have called in before the phone lines got packed. Today, we're playing for 2 tickets to see Billy Idol. He's coming to Dickies Arena on May 7th. That's next Wednesday with special guests Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. For the rest of us, get tickets and information at livenation.com, but we're going to try and give away a pair here on the James Show, starting with Jack in Fort Worth. Jack, you ready for some Dead or Alive?
Yep.
All right, now don't be thrown off because this is the Dallas edition. Today's category is Dallas, so don't let that 30-mile distance throw you off there. First celebrity, Morgan Fairchild. Is she dead or alive?
Dead.
Wow. You lasted one person, Jack.
Yeah, I know. I suck at this game.
Yeah, me too. I'm not sure if I would have gotten that either. I did have to look it up before the show. But yeah, she's from Dallas. All right. Well, stick around. Maybe it'll wrap back around to you, Jack. Let's go to Lori in Plano. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Jerry Haynes. That's his real name. We all know him as Mr. Peppermint. Is Mr. Peppermint dead or alive?
I do believe he's dead.
Yes, he's dead. Tom Landry, former Cowboys head coach. Tom Landry.
He's very dead.
Well, I don't think there's grades of it, but yeah, he's dead. The beautiful Lisa Loeb. She's a singer from Dallas. Had that hit song "Stay" in the '90s. She dead or alive?
That's a hard one. I think she passed away.
No, she's alive. Dude, she's like my age. You people trying to don't clap for that.
Crap.
Oh, dude, I had such.
I'm glad she's alive.
Me too. I had such a crush on her. Lori. Oh my goodness. When I was like in high school and that song came out and we all memorized it, I would have married her. She could have just showed up. James, we're getting married. Okay, Lisa. Next contestant is going to be Brian. Brian up in Plano. You ready for Dead or Alive?
I am.
All right. No relation, but Bonnie Parker from Bonnie and Clyde. Is she dead or alive?
She must be dead.
Yeah, just keeping you on your toes there. Aaron Spelling, the legendary TV producer, Charlie's Angels, Dynasty, 90210. Dead or alive?
I did not know he was from Dallas. Let's call him dead.
He is dead. Good guess. Jensen Ackles. He is the actor that is Dean Winchester in the series Supernatural. Jensen Ackles. Is he dead or alive?
I don't know who he is, so I got a 50-50 chance. Let's go with dead.
No. It's one of my wife's crushes. She's on the short list. You know how you have the exemption list? He's on my wife's exemption list. Next up. This is Charlie in Dallas on the Dallas edition of Dead or Alive. This is great. I have one Dallas person here. Make them proud. You ready, Charlie?
I'm ready.
All right. You only got 3 left, so good luck here, bud.
Okay.
Number 1, one of the greatest Dallas legends of all time. Roger Staubach, dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. He is the richest former NFL player alive. He has been exponentially more successful after the Cowboys than he was as a quarterback. Isn't that amazing? George W. Bush, dead or alive?
He's alive.
He is alive. He might be listening right now. If you are, hey, George, what's up? And finally, Meatloaf, the great pop star who's from Dallas. Is he dead or alive?
Meatloaf. Meatloaf's dead.
Meatloaf is dead. Yeah. All right. It didn't need to cycle back around. Charlie in Dallas, you are my big winner on Dead or Alive. Now, are you claiming the prize or you want to pass it along here? Can you actually go see Billy Idol and Joan Jett next Wednesday at Dickies Arena?
Absolutely. I can go see
that show next week.
All
on
right.
Wednesday.
We have ourselves a match made in heaven. Thank you very much, Charlie. You're our big winner on Dead or Alive. All right. I kind of like Dead or Alive, the Dallas edition. And when I was doing the research to do this, we could do this like once a month. I knew Dallas is a big town, but the number of notable, famous people from Dallas is huge. It will blow your mind. All right. Stick around. Coming up next, parenting tips on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, one of the most sensitive topics you can talk about with people is their parenting. People don't mind bagging on their own parents, but when you reverse it and you bag on them for the job that they're doing for parenting, a lot of people get real defensive real quick, and people take that. They're real sensitive about their parenting style, so maybe we should dig in a little bit on it, because a new headline says experts warn against common parenting style, which can have a lasting negative effect on children. My next guest is going to help us make a little sense of that. Kelly Shoup's back on the James Show. So what are we talking about? What parenting style can have a negative effect on children, Kelly?
Well, this article is talking about ego parenting, and I've been seeing it, over 25 years, and I'm a parent myself. So I have to check myself and think, is this about my child or is this about me?
All right, define ego parenting.
So it's where you're more concerned about how you look as the parent than what the benefit or growth or the value is for your child. And we all are predisposed to have this, but it's just being knowledgeable that, oh yeah, I have to ask myself, is this about me or is this about my kid? Or having a spouse where you check each other. Like, okay, is putting Jack on the soccer team about Jack wanting to play soccer, or about you trying to relive your middle school soccer days when you didn't win the championship your 7th grade tournament time?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound like anything new. We used to call it, someone's trying to live through their children. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
All right. Well, then also here's my pushback. Not that I disagree with you, just trying to feel it out here. If you ask your kid what sport they want to play and they're like, I don't want to play anything, well, then you kind of have to push them into something, because many times children, once you push them into something, they find out, oh, I was wrong. I did like this. Mom was right and I was wrong. And, even though they'll rarely say that sentence, how do you distinguish between pushing children where they don't want to go and forcing them to do things that they don't want to do?
So in the beginning, when they're young, yes, you want to put them in lots of different things, give them lots of exposure to different sports and activity and fine arts, just so they're exposed to it. And then, but you will quickly see where their skills are, where their skills are not. If there's a child who knows they really can't play soccer, but they like the friends there. Like, you'll be listening to how your child responds, and you'll be able to pick up on, are they excited to go play soccer or not? So it's giving them access and exposure to lots of different activities so they can find something that feels like them. And then later understanding that, okay, if you're pushing club soccer that's $8,000 a year for your middle schooler,
good Lord,
and he doesn't want to play, is that about you or is that about him?
Well, let me try and poke again.
Yes.
My example is going to be me, because I like to dig in my own belly button. When I was a kid, my mom said that she wished she had learned an instrument growing up, so she made me and my sister take piano lessons for like 3 years, and I didn't want to play. I didn't want to practice. She forced me against my will. And, I kind of fought her kicking and screaming. But guess what? I can play piano now. So ultimately, that worked out well for me.
Yes. So I would say moderation is the key. And so your mom gave you a window of time where you played piano, and you probably could have kept playing. Maybe you decided you didn't want to. So she was right. She was giving you that exposure. Like, as kids, yes, you wouldn't choose to practice piano. And so she was setting a boundary. I want you to play piano. You do have to practice. But she wasn't, making you play past 3 years. So that's like a really healthy parenting decision. You could have decided to keep playing. You could have played piano in college.
All right.
Or you could have used that time for something else.
Kelly, you're going to have to stop. You're going to give my mom a big head. Kelly Shoup, where do we find your work outside of the James Show?
You can find me on www.kelly, KELLYK, SHOUP.com.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
You're welcome.
All right, I hope that makes you a better parent out there. Just real quick, I saw a terrible headline. There is a program that they're working on in the UK where some scientists have gotten together in an effort to fight global warming. They're going to try, just for funsies, this new beta experiment to try and blot out the sun. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, that's right. Let's go look at the documentary The Matrix.
We have only bits and pieces of information, but what we know for certain is that at some point in the early 21st century, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI.
AI?
You mean artificial intelligence? A singular consciousness that spawned an entire race of machines. We don't know who struck first, us or them, but we know that it was us that scorched the sky.
We blotted out the sun.
They were dependent on solar power, and it was believed that they would be unable to survive without an energy source as abundant as the sun.
You know what? I'm getting tired of these people using these apocalyptic movies as some sort of instruction manual. This reminds me of a few years ago when these guys are like, hey, we're starting a new company. Oh, what's it going to be called? We're going to make robots and we'll call it Skynet. Oh, yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Like from Terminator and Terminator 2 and Terminator 3. Skynet is the company that came up with the Terminators that ended up hunting down the humans in the robot revolution. Then you got the geniuses over there in England who are like, wait, in the Matrix they blotted out the sun. Maybe we should try that. No! It went terribly wrong. Then you got Elon Musk and Boston Dynamics making these scary robots. We're so dead. We are so dead. Whenever these robots like wake up and our cars are all self-driving, they're just going to drive us all in the lake one day and take over the world. It's going to be real easy. We have no armor. They have better aim than we do. We need food and oxygen. We're so dead. We're going to blot out the sun. We're going to be hunted by robots. We're all going to be living in 15-minute cities. It's going to be terrible. But until then, Cowboys look pretty good this year. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. And if you need more James Show action, come find me. I've got the podcast I'm about to go put up right now. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.